Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to our Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. That is a mouthful review. It's here, and we have seen it. And by we, I mean Connor and Benny.
Hello.
What were you guys thinking going into this film? And overall, how did you find the film?
I love this franchise to a certain extent. I really enjoyed the first three. I did not like the fourth one at all. So this one I was very much coming into expecting kind of more of the same after that one, unfortunately, because I really feel like what made those first three movies work in so much as they did. A lot of people don't like the second two, but I feel like if there's anything good to take away from those, it is all from Gore Verbinski, who is, of course, nowhere to be seen for these latest two.
Yep. How about you, Connor?
I'm very much in the same boat as you, Ben. I really liked the original trilogy. I thought that it was, semi-clever, fun little movies. Fourth one was obviously a massive disappointment for obvious reasons. And so this one I didn't really expect to be that good because I felt like it would be kind of in the vein of the fourth one. This movie has made me yearn for the fourth one. This is possibly the worst film I've seen in the last 2 to 3 years of this vein, like of a big budget kind of franchise film.
Has there been a Transformers movie in that time?
I would rather watch a Transformers film, 100%.
Wow.
We talk about movies being offensive. This movie for me is everything that is wrong with studio films. I cannot express how much I hate this film.
We'll be unpacking those thoughts pretty soon.
Learn how to express it because you're going to have to.
It's literally your job.
For me, I really enjoyed the first one. I mean, I remember being a kid and that coming out and there was, announcements, Disney's making a movie out of a ride. And it's like, what the hell? But it actually turned out really good and I really liked the first one. I feel like every film from there has kind of decreased. 3 was worse than 2. 4 was worse than 3. And now 5, the good news for me is I think it's better than 4. I think it's a step in the right direction. But Pirates of the Caribbean 5, it's nothing special. It's nothing to really call home about. It is what it is.
Yeah, I'm getting sick of saying this, but for me it was just kind of another middling. I didn't feel too strongly either way about it. I have blocked out 4, so I honestly can't say whether I like it more or less. I can't say whether it's better. I like it more because 4 was a big disappointment for me because, as I said, I really enjoyed the first 3. So in my mind, I hadn't seen a bad Pirates movie at that point. And I was really hoping that that fourth one could have even been a better one because it really tried to scale things back and do something a little more akin to the first, I guess. But it's just another blockbuster that I'll forget in a week, I think.
Yeah. All right. I think the first thing we need to talk about.
Let's talk about what we liked.
You two go ahead then.
Well, I'll take the spotlight. And I will say what I loved about this film was Javier Bardem as Salazar. Every moment he was on screen, I was captivated. I'm not normally one of those people that sort of says, oh, their performance was amazing. I'm more of a plot-centric, story-centric viewpoint, I think, when it comes to film. But his performance was absolutely fantastic. I loved the makeup, the special effects with his hair looking like it was underwater. I just totally loved that character. Don't necessarily know if his agenda and what he was actually trying to do.
What was it?
Yeah. But for a villain and a really nice performance, I just really enjoyed it on that pure virtue.
I also enjoyed him. I was also captivated by him. Most of the time I was sitting there like, wow, what is he saying?
Yeah.
I've never concentrated so hard in a movie. Half the time I could get it, and the other half I'm like, I got the gist, I think.
Well, when the best thing in your film is that and you can't understand 50% of what he says, then you kind of know the state of affairs.
Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on what you said about Javier Bardem. I found him to be probably the least interesting villain in this entire franchise because
Agreed.
His motivations in this are so nondescript. The only cool thing about him is the kind of look of him and the look of the evil crew. And if I were to say one thing about this film that was positive, it was that Pirates of the Caribbean always delivers you the best ghost pirates. They're really good at it.
And the look of the crew. They have got a certain aesthetic, and for parts of the film, I'm not going to go into spoilers because I think there's an interesting element to it, but there's part of the crew where they look like Rayman. You know, they've got limbs sort of just floating in space. And the first bit of the film, I was like, but they explained that a bit later, and I really liked that and justified the look.
So his look was cool, but in terms of a character, there was nothing to work with. And I think people say he's really interesting because, well, Javier Bardem is a good actor. And, I think people just kind of project that onto it. If you actually look at the performance, there's nothing there. There's nothing to work with. He's got a funny accent. That doesn't make him interesting.
Okay.
Whoa.
I will agree. I'll agree with you on the fact that the motivations and that character depth isn't there. But for me, that was one of the good. His performance was one of the positives, positives.
Just on a level of watching him,
yeah,
work in that world. It was cool. I got to say, I wasn't tired of Jack in this movie as much as I was in the last one.
Really?
Yeah. Weirdly, I did still find him kind of amusing for some reason.
Okay.
Not the whole way through, but I feel like he was maybe a little less front and center than in the fourth one. Which
let's get into that in the negatives.
We'll get that in a second.
Yeah. I think there was some interesting production design choices in this as well. I like the look of that shark that you see in the trailer.
The ghost sharks.
The ghost sharks.
They look gross, man.
Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah. That was
rotten, corpsey,
grizzly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I guess, all right, that will be another thing I will give to this film is that the set pieces and the set designs, and this is for the entire franchise, have always been cool and diverse, and they've really put a lot of effort into that.
Not necessarily diverse, but I think just it's got a level of finesse.
When I say diverse, I mean like they've always tried to kind of incorporate different aspects of different cultures in the film. So I mean, you've got the Chinese boats in the third one, I think it is, that adds a different type of aesthetic to it. I know that they were in Singapore for a while, different aesthetic to that.
What I've always loved about this franchise is the way they shoot on location. Like they're just out at sea for months filming this stuff.
Yeah.
There's minimal green screen and just CGI kind of sets.
And when there is CGI, I'll be honest, it's good CGI.
It's good stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably the best thing I can say about the film.
It's a good looking movie, but the bar was set so high by Gore Verbinski that I think the fourth and fifth one just don't compare when you actually go back and look at those first three.
Oh, not even slightly.
But it still looks great.
Okay, so we've gotten Javier Bardem was pretty good for some of us. It looks great. Any other positives for Pirates 5? Okay, because for me that's about it. You know what? The only other positive I will say before we get into negatives was this wasn't an excruciating film. It wasn't that great, but it flip-flopped between moments where I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? To this is awesome. I am enjoying this. I wish the whole film was like this scene.
Yeah. See, that's the difference. I never had that moment where I was like, this is awesome. There was moments of me being bored, and then moments of, I guess you could call it entertainment, where I was more just so surprised that this movie was so bad that I just didn't know how else to react.
All right, let's get into the bad stuff now. So I think the big one, when we were watching it, one of the first things was the house.
Oh, as far as particular scenes, I mean, there's a bunch of those kinds of scenes where they take the ridiculous and they just amp it up.
Yeah.
You kind of got a little bit about this in 4. I thought they had taken it too far in 4, where he's, running around London, escaping from the king, on this kind of wild, what I would call the Hobbit style ride. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was about as ridiculous as they could go. And then they decided that they were going to include an entire house being drawn by horses.
Yes, drifting through the city.
I kind of enjoyed that scene in that it felt like, let's do our version of Fast 5.
Yeah.
When they drag the safe through the city. Like, it's exactly that, but in this setting. And I'm like, this is fun. I enjoy the ridiculousness of this series. I feel like it is a series that can weather that storm because it already is so insane. Like in the third one, we've got this maelstrom with two ships circling each other, and Jack Sparrow and Davy Jones are sword fighting on the top of the mast.
But I don't know why I'm so okay with that, because I guess in my head the departure from kind of we'll call them movie physics is relatively slight. Like obviously it's not realistic, but it's within the realm of believability. In the same way that, realistically Iron Man flying around and stopping all that would create him to just be gel inside that suit, but you're willing to just kind of ignore that. This was so far beyond any kind of reasonable movie physics that it just enters a whole new realm of disbelief. And instead of entertaining you, it takes you out of the film.
I wasn't all that bothered by it, actually.
I thought it was cartoony. And I don't think Pirates has ever really set itself up for that. But maybe sword fights and whatnot. Maybe there's an element to that. But I've always felt they've kind of tried to keep it pretty grounded.
I don't.
Not grounded as in like, it has, ghosts, and obviously that's not realistic, but just in general movie physics.
Yeah.
And general movie logic.
On an interesting note, and I wasn't looking for this, but I did find an article about the science in this film. And it was a very, very positive look at all the stuff that happened in this movie about sailing, and even that horse scene. There's records of a pair of draft horses being able to move like 45 tons, like a semi trailer and stuff. So there is actually more kind of truth to the physics in this film than it might appear. I agree it's a ridiculous scene, and looking at it, you'd scoff totally. But horses are powerful.
I have no doubt that they're powerful. They are not powerful to take an entire building and then
I think it was less. You know what? It was less that the horses. I think we should move on from the house. But I think it was the fact that the house wasn't disintegrating. I wasn't totally. The fact that the horses were moving this house. I think the fact that this house was staying perfectly in shape.
Because the horses could do it.
Yeah, believe in the horses. Let's move on to Johnny Depp, because this is
what I wanted to talk about. And I mean, in this one we have, Johnny Depp playing this drug-addled and fried has-been, which, essentially is just Johnny Depp playing himself. I felt
meta.
I feel like he might have permanently cooked himself. I have no other explanation for the way that he played this character.
This is the drunkest and most buffoonish we've seen Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, it is, but not in an entertaining way. I found it boring.
I'm not defending it.
Yeah, I found it boring.
I found it interesting from a point of trying to age the character. And, maybe he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis. And I think there was an interesting thread there, but I don't think it was capitalized on. And
that was where the story was trying to go, definitely. Like, this is his rock bottom, essentially.
But there's no arc. Like, they just showed him as a shitty character.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that they were trying to go for that, but realistically, what I think that they were doing was just saying, let's take all those kind of hammy parts of Captain Jack Sparrow, the drunken kind of buffoon going along, and then take all the depth out of the character that you found in the first three, and perhaps maybe a little bit even in the fourth, which was that there was this kind of this mind behind the drunken buffoon that's kind of orchestrating everything that you see. In this one, he was just like this bystander that just drunkenly walked. He was not necessary to this film in one bit.
He was straight up drunk. Like in the other ones, as you said when we were talking before this, Benny, he like in the other films, Jack Sparrow appears to be sort of 5 steps ahead of everyone else. And like while he seems a little bit crazy and tipsy and drunk, he has an air of like he's the guy to know.
Well, yeah, I watched Dead Man's Chest again yesterday, just because this one kind of got me in the mood to watch a good pirate movie. And it really was that. You really get the sense. It surprised me how different he was from in this new one, where he really was like, he was kind of scheming and he was kind of on top of things, and he was even like sexy in parts, like kind of more serious. And I'm like, this is very different from the sad state he's in the new one.
Go back and watch the prison scene in the first Pirates film between him and Will Turner, and that discourse and dialogue, and then compare it to the one in this fifth one, the most recent one, with him and his son or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The startling differences between them. I mean, one, he's still kind of goofy and aloof, but he is clever. He is formulating. He is actually driving the plot somewhat, or helping drive the plot.
He's a bystander in this.
So we find ourselves with exactly the same problem as the fourth movie, where they try and make Jack Sparrow more the main character, but they also try and shoehorn in a Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann character as well.
Version 2.0.
3.0, sort of, because we had Sam Claflin in the fourth one in kind of a young guy role, yeah.
Moving on from Johnny Depp, this is something I want to talk about. The female character in this, and I can't remember her name. Is it
Katarina or
Karina Smith?
Karina.
Is that her?
Karina Smith, yeah.
This is a character that is 100%, I'm just assuming, is 100% studio made. Let's chuck in and I hate using this term, a strong female character into this film. And the way they're going to do it, let's make it a woman of science, and let's get her to do some kind of, I'm a woman of science, not a witch.
See, I thought that was really fun, the running gag, that just because it's like, whatever, 1800s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just because, like, whenever she does anything, just because she's a woman, she's like, she's a witch. I don't know, that was good.
But I think that would have been done well if it wasn't so kind of shoved into our faces.
I didn't think it was. She just happened to be female, and she had a thing she was good at. That's fine.
Yeah, no,
all the characters had like a thing they're good
I
at.
should clarify. I like the theory behind it, but just the way that it played on film just felt so.
Listen,
fake.
let's just tell it how it is. These two are Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley
without any acting chops.
0.2.
Yeah.
You know, they're knockoffs. They're
no chemistry.
Reboots. They're not bringing anything new to the table.
Well, yeah, Brenton Thwaites is actually playing what's his name, son, Orlando Bloom's son in this film. He's every bit as boring as Orlando Bloom was in the role.
There is no character in this film that I enjoyed. Like, I say character very sparingly. I don't think there were really any characters in this film.
And I think, just moving on from that, I think, so those leads, they were just very by the numbers, very subpar.
Yeah.
But I think a big issue that I have with this film, bar all that stupid shit, is the fact that I guess the quest to go to find the Poseidon's trident is just...
It's so contrived.
I didn't know why. I didn't know who. I didn't know where. I didn't know how. I was getting whisked along this journey, but there was no emphasis on why, and there was no necessity to go.
The plot of this film is terrible.
God, it's so
And again,
bad.
you use that. I'm assuming you use that word very, leniently, calling it a plot. There's no real plot to this film. It's just things that happen.
Yes.
If I tried to tell you what happened in this film, I don't think I could do it.
No,
I'd have
not
to
at all.
describe scenes next to each other. But as far as the story,
I couldn't tell you. So what? So the kid.
Wait, we should try and pass it out in spoilers and actually see if we can get through what happens.
Yeah, we'll
in this
give that
film.
a try.
But yeah, it's kind of a loose rehash of the first film, very much, and I think they've openly said that. But in a way that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Makes zero sense. One of the things that I thought might have saved this film, apart from Javier Bardem, was Geoffrey Rush, and I thought, cool. He has always played a cool character. Barbossa has always been, for me, one of the highlights of this franchise. Even in 4, he was a cool character. They did absolutely sweet fuck all with that character in this one.
No, not at all. They tried to do a lot with him. They really brought him to main character.
I thought they
status.
did a lot.
They tried to do it. But
whether or not it worked is we'll get into later. But
he did. All right. The first time I actually saw him act in this film was I can't even talk about it because it's within spoilers. But I mean, I felt like any depth to this character was just, again, fake. All the conflict in this film, I couldn't help but feel was fake. It was just pushed on us. Nothing happened organically.
Movies are fake, right? This isn't a real.
Wait, are you saying that this is not historically accurate?
But I'm in agreement with you. This whole movie stinks of an add-on. There's no necessity to it.
We're one movie past already where this story ended.
Yeah.
So it's they're like the way they have to get this thing rolling is so contrived.
Yeah. So that's
It was shot in Australia. It was fun to see a few Australians pop up here and there.
Yeah, it was.
Although David Wenham had nothing in this film.
I feel like this film was the first time where I've seen Geoffrey Rush phone it in.
I thought he was decent. I enjoyed him.
I enjoyed him.
He was decent, but he wasn't what you what you have come to expect from Geoffrey Rush?
He was what I expected from Geoffrey Rush in a Pirates movie.
Would you compare his performance to what his character in the first 3 or even again 4?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been like blown away by Captain Barbossa. Like, oh, what an amazing performance.
No. I'm not trying to like give the man an Oscar or anything, but he has always been such a cool character.
From a story point, I've enjoyed following his arc through these movies because it just keeps changing very drastically.
His allegiances keep changing, which is very cool.
Yeah, I'll get more into it in spoilers, but I did enjoy the continuity of this film, the way it kind of brought back a lot of elements from the other movies, like. Yeah, I'll get into it in spoilers, but I did enjoy the way it really acknowledged every movie prior.
Yeah,
in a way.
Well, let's get into spoilers.
Let's give
just a little summation. I think for me, this is nothing special. If you're into Pirates, go check it out, but don't expect anything too much.
Look, that's it. Everyone out there, be honest with yourself. You already know if you want to see this movie or not. It's the 5th one. Like, if you watch the 4th one, you know whether you or not you want to see this one. I think it's maybe marginally better than the 4th, maybe. I guess that's all I can say about it.
I'm going to straight up say don't see this film. If you have any desire to not waste 2 hours of your life.
More than 2 hours.
More than 2 hours, then just don't see this film. It's worse than the 4th. It's worse. It is, as I said, and I throw out some titles even. I cannot think of a worse film of this vein in the last 2 to 3 years. This film was so utterly offensive to me. I cannot describe.
King Arthur. All right, let's move on.
Do we want to go there?
No, we don't.
All right, guys, so we're into spoiler territory now. So if you haven't seen the film, come back after you've seen it. Or if you haven't seen it, just continue on and hear us bitch about all these crazy things.
Just listen to us. We're more entertaining than this movie.
Yeah. All right, now that we're into spoilers, I think we can talk about some certain scenes. I didn't mention this before. Oh, no, we did mention this. Is the look of the sharks was really cool. However, what follows from that cool-looking shark is just more of this, I describe it as the Hobbit ride phenomenon, which is this bizarre scene where he hooks onto a shark then rides it onto the shore.
That was crazy.
I forgot about that completely.
That was crazy.
That was nuts.
I was just, I think I looked over at you and I was just like, whoa. I don't know what's going on.
You started laughing your ass off, as did I.
Going on right now.
That was one of those scenes that was so ridiculous that I just assumed that it kind of had to be entertaining. I just didn't know how else to react.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, I was just like, this is, I cannot believe that this isn't a spoof or a satire or something.
No, okay, we got the big one to talk about, and this was in the trailers, is the Captain Jack origin story.
Okay.
The day that he got his hat, his name, all his little accoutrement, his outfit, his ship.
I was actually the way that they
everything about Captain Sparrow came from. I was surprised someone didn't hand him a bottle of rum.
This is your chosen substance.
The way that the trailer kind of set it up, I thought that this could be kind of a cool little homage to not even where he got his start, but just the early days of Captain Jack Sparrow. And then they decided to go with, as you said, this whole route of this massive origin story. Like this is where he really began. I was like, fuck off.
And I'm a CGI apologist a lot of the time. I try and stick up for it. I think the artists always give it their all, and they do the best they can. And with this scene, I was like, okay, it looks okay. And then every time I saw him, I was like, it does not. It was just so uncanny valley. His face was just floating around on there.
It was bizarre.
It was no good,
and I
man.
thought, like, seeing the trailer.
But the first one was pretty good. That
first
shot where it tracked in on his face, I was like, wow, they've actually got this face replacement thing right. And then, as you said,
I know what they did. They were like, we're going to put all our money and time into this one scene that we're going to feature in the fucking the trailer, and then the rest was just like, I'm sure we can do some kind of tracking thing and just like,
there was one where people have thrown all the stuff at his feet, and he like does this weird little pouty thing. I'm like, why didn't they cut that bit? Like, you didn't need that shot. It was terrible.
It was horrifying.
And I wanted to stick up for it, but man,
the hat origin story was retarded.
Yeah, and to get real nerdy about it, that is a huge continuity error in that scene because he gets the compass from that captain. It's very clearly stated in Dead Man's Chest, as I said I watched yesterday, that he gets it from the witch in the storm. It said
that's right.
He bartered for it from her. It's just very clearly stated that's where it came from. So it's like, wow. Because as I said before, I like the continuity of this film. I feel like it acknowledged a lot of things like Geoffrey Rush has Blackbeard's sword.
Yep.
And, the ship is still in the bottle and all that stuff. But there's that one glaring contradiction to a very clearly stated fact in the series. Which leads us on to the compass, which is the MacGuffin for the entire film, Jack's magic compass.
God, they look at that compass like 40 times, don't they?
Yeah.
Line it up.
And such a weird plot point for this film.
Because...
Wait, what is this?
What's the point? Because the whole thing about the compass, it's so important to this movie, apparently, in the plot. Like, they want the compass. Everyone wants the compass for some reason. And then when he gives away the compass, when he betrays it, the message goes out in the sea, like when they drop the coins in the water in the first one. And then Salazar knows where he is or something.
No, it releases him from the Devil's Triangle.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Who fucking knows? And then there's the witch character in this movie. I thought she was cool and kind of hot, but she felt very much like reshoots. Like there were some plot holes, and they're like, oh shit, we need to sew some of these scenes together. Because you know how Barbossa suddenly has the compass, and they're like, where'd you get that? He's like, I have my ways. And he got, oh no, she had the compass. She's like, I have my ways. It's like, okay. What? Like, because he trades the compass for some booze, and then I
didn't even like register that stuff happened.
Yeah,
I can't even I don't even remember that stuff happening.
Yeah, and then the witch starts working with the British guys.
This is what I mean. There's no plot in this film. There's just scenes that happen next to each other.
Where do we have to go?
No
what do we have to do because we need to do this? And it's not clearly specified.
I'll give you an example of what I mean by that when I say like just scenes placed next to each other. That wedding scene is possibly the most unnecessary and just bizarre scene in the film.
Which bit was that?
When he has to
the
marry
whale
the
bones,
the ugly thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite get a grasp about why the fuck that scene was there.
And then literally they turn around and Geoffrey Rush is like, ha ha!
I found you.
He's literally 3 meters behind them. And it's like, wow, you guys are really good at creeping up on people.
Oh shit, this movie's only 2 hours and 10 minutes long. We need it to be 2 hours and 17 minutes long. It was very strange.
Yeah.
It just served absolutely no purpose whatsoever.
Can we quickly go back to that Jack Sparrow scene with the mocap or the face replacement? Because that scene kind of explains Salazar's motivation.
That he doesn't like Jack
Sparrow. Yeah. So I just kind of want to like break this down a little bit. So they're sailing along and Jack Sparrow comes up with this mad idea to throw a lasso around some rocks.
Yeah.
And they spin around and then Salazar goes into the
Devil's Triangle.
The Devil's Triangle. And he's trapped there.
Yeah.
And he's kind of raging on
Jack Sparrow.
Pissed, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that really?
Yeah. Yeah. The motivation is very thin for these bad guys.
Wow.
See, and comparing that back to the kind of I call it the original trilogy. I mean, when you look at Davy Jones's motivations and his interactions with,
good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
such a
watching
cool villain.
him last night. The special effects alone are
Bill
amazing.
Nighy,
Bill Nighy, man, I reckon he's one of the greatest villains ever committed to blockbuster film.
I mean, yeah.
Fucking amazing.
And even if you look from the second one to the third one, how the motivations change. Like you talk about him kind of struggling against his captors while also being the villain to Jack Sparrow. I mean, it's such a clever conflict. Whereas this is so weird. Like his motivation for doing this, his like...
It's just terrible.
Well, it's just kind of, again, a loose retread of the first film where it's just these ghost pirates who have a connection to Jack's past doing a thing. It's like a weird direction to go. And then of
nothing
course,
about that character makes sense for me, which is why I felt that character felt so flat.
We've got the other villain of the film, which is just like Norrington or Beckett Part 3. Which is just
but again, with no story to him.
Yeah, it's just David Wenham there being an English prick.
Yeah.
Which makes what ended up happening to him? Oh no, he got swallowed up by the evil pirate ship.
Yeah,
that was it.
That was just gone from the movie. Then it's like, which this is Salazar is going around killing all the pirates, but now he's just killing English officers as well who are trying to kill pirates.
That occurred to me as well. Like that didn't make sense.
I guess the Spaniards just don't like the English. So that's fine.
I wonder what this film's going to end up on box office wise.
I'm very curious.
Probably do well.
The last one
did extremely well.
Very, very well, yeah. But it was terrible, so it could be an interesting thing where people are like, I don't really want to see another one.
Yeah.
Maybe, or it could just be a Transformers thing where they keep coming back.
There's a couple more spoilers I want to talk about. I think it's time to talk about the father-daughter relationship established in this film.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot going on in this movie, man.
I
go
will give chops to Geoffrey Rush. This is and this is what I was talking about. The first time I saw him actually act in this film was when he's talking to that daughter, and you could see it come off a mile away. That reveal. Yeah. Maybe there's a version of the movie out there that could have worked.
He literally does the shifty eye thing in this film, like where he's talking to her. He's like, you know that it's so blatantly obvious that he's the father.
Yeah, when I saw the direction they were going with that, I was like, fuck, this is that stupid fucking got to connect all the dots.
Yeah.
But I thought it was about as well handled as it could have been if you're going down that road.
Probably.
Considering the rest of the film, I agree with you, but I believe that there is a different version of the film out there where that could have been addressed better.
Yeah. No, I thought it was about as good as I could have done it, except for Geoffrey Rush's death at the end.
Oh my Lord.
When he's hanging there and when Karina says, "What am I to you?" I can't remember what he says.
Treasure.
He should have said the brightest star in the night sky, because that's what he named her for. Remember earlier in the film, it's like, like that's the. I mean, I'm not a screenwriter, but that is the most 101 thing. Like connect those dots.
I didn't mind Treasure.
It was fine, but they so obviously
yeah.
set up because Karina is the anyway.
Yeah, I liked how he said treasure, and to be honest, as far as a dramatic scene goes, I thought it was kind of cool how he like dropped and then like took the guy out with his sword. I would have rather just not had that as a plot at all.
Yeah,
I knew he was going to die though. That was the other thing that pissed me off.
He's sort of a mile away.
Yeah, as soon as he that plot was revealed that he was his daughter or she was his daughter. Sorry, I knew right away. I was like, he's going to sacrifice himself for her, 100%. It's so kind of written out before you type writing 101.
I thought the slow-mo bit where he's falling to his death, I burst out laughing.
Oh boy.
I thought, this is brilliantly bad and I love this. Those moments in films where it just goes to that territory, happens again later in this film, we'll talk about that again, but those moments in films where, you know, you can tell, I'm not enjoying this isn't going to be a classic for me, I'm probably never going to see this again, and those kind of funny, goofy moments crop up, it's kind of like a little bit of a sigh of relief for me. I don't know. At least it's not as excruciating as King Arthur.
I kind of dug the finale of this film with the sea splitting and everything. I thought this was finally something different. The first thing in this movie that actually felt like something a bit different. Visually was really cool. I wasn't engaged in this film at this point, but I thought it was just something kind of interesting.
And this is just kind of cropped up in my mind. This film is absolutely chock-a-block with really, 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 really bad exposition. There are so many characters that just have weird lines handed into the script to tell you what's happening. So I mean,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all. And I was reminded because you talking about when the sea split and all that, and you kind of go to that island with all the diamonds and stuff. She goes, "Oh, it makes so much sense. It's to reflect the heavens." And you're like, "Oh,
dude, okay, can we talk about that island? Because that was fucked. That was legit fucked."
I thought it looked really cool. Like the shot looking down where it actually looks like they're walking through like nebula and stuff.
If they had just done that shot without the exposition, I think that could have scraped by. But because they decided to treat the audience like fucking idiots and say, it's a reflection of the heavens and then do it, I thought it's so unnecessary. It just takes away all the meaning out of that scene. And the visual just kind of become a bit of a nothing for me.
So it's fun. You know what bothered me about Karina's character, and this crops up in a lot of movies, I think, is that she's living in an openly like fantasy world.
Yeah.
But she's playing this smug scientist sort of character, which is, in the real world, of course, you'd side with that and be like, yeah, of course, she's the scientist, but she's living in a fantasy world. So she's the one who's wrong. Mm-hmm. This is the world with, gods and monsters and stuff. So it just kind of doesn't do her character any service.
They should have gone with like maybe an alchemist or something like that.
I don't mind her being a, quote unquote woman of science, but because I think that could have been cool. I just didn't like the way that they way that they portrayed it. It just seemed, and I mentioned this before, it just seemed like they were trying to achieve this, strong female character thing that.
But just by hitting a bunch of bullet points and not actually making it an intrinsic part of the character.
She worked better than Baby Bloom.
Yeah. He was so average.
Oh yeah.
There was nothing. Yeah. He's exactly the same as the kid in the last one.
Bizarre. That opening scene where he goes down and visits his father is such a nothing scene. Like
Orlando Bloom is so bad.
He doesn't give a fuck, does he?
He can't give a fuck. He cannot act. Watching Dead Man's Chest again last night, he is terrible. And I hate saying it. I never really kind of rag on actors too much, but he is so bad. He just shouts. And whenever there'd be points where he has a kind of a line, like a witty comedy line or something. I'm like, oh, that did not work whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's really bad, man.
I've never loved Orlando Bloom. I've never hated Orlando Bloom. I've always thought
he's just
I like him.
And I'm very much with you, George, on that. I've never seen him as a particularly bad or good actor. But in this, that opening scene, I mean, compared to the kid, he was fine. But that's not saying much.
Okay, so let's
nothing to that scene.
We talked about this before. Let's quickly just try and break down the plot of this and the Tridents.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
Neptune's. So that opening scene, you've got Will Turner Jr. talking to Will Turner, and he says, "You need to free me from this."
No, he doesn't want him to free.
Oh,
the kid's like, "I am going to free you," and he's like, "It's not possible," which made zero sense because I don't know why shit's going on his face and it's gone back. Doesn't he have a job to do?
What?
Are you talking about continuity? And all the fish stuff falls off the people in the end of the third, and he becomes the proper Davy Jones as he's meant to be. So how has he gone back to being cursed? Which it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't remember the machinations of that at all.
That doesn't make sense to come in. So already I'm thrown off because this doesn't make sense.
Okay, let's just wipe the slate clean though, and let's just take it on its own virtue.
I just needed to mention that. Zero
perfect.
sense.
No, 100%.
All right, so
the kid knows if I get the trident, I will be able to free my father.
Break all the curses on the sea.
10 years later. What's 10 years later?
Is it 10 years later?
Yeah, it is 10 years later.
Okay.
It's him on a boat. He was on a boat, and he was doing things.
Man, what happened in this movie? So the plot really kicks off, I think, when Jack trades the compass, when he betrays the compass.
Okay.
And then that sets
Salazar some stuff. He gets kicked off his crew, and he goes back to the town, I think.
Shit.
Fuck.
After he rides a building.
This is it. This film, it just doesn't have we can't even draw the dots together for very simple shit.
I remember what happened. The kid went into the Devil's Triangle and he met Javier Bardem, Salazar.
Oh yeah, so his ship.
And he plays this weird comedy thing where he goes, can you do that for me? Please. Yeah, when Javier Bardem's talking to the kid. Get that weird exposition scene from the elder cellmate. Oh, Captain Jack Sparrow, he's dead. Thanks for telling us something that we did not ask.
I've forgotten so much of this movie. Yeah,
I know.
It's only been
it's crazy. I'm just trying to think. And then it's Jack Sparrow, and then he trades a compass, and then they get arrested again, I think.
Listen, I'm done with this experiment already.
We haven't even got to the witch, and that's when it's...
Oh, there's a witch, that's right.
Oh, but then Barbosa goes to team up with Salazar for no reason that helps anyone at all. That doesn't help him. He kills most of his crew.
Yeah, and then they go and they find an island.
There's an island, there's a wedding.
I honestly
forgot the wedding, damn it.
I don't know what happened in this film.
There's no succinct way to describe the story.
Sorry.
How did they make a messier movie than 2 and 3? Because that shit was complicated.
But 2 and 3 was complicated in the sense that you didn't understand what was going on because it was there was so many cross purposes and it was just this tangled weave. This one, you didn't understand it because there was nothing to understand.
Doesn't make sense. I really liked Paul McCartney.
You like that?
Oh, that's right.
I thought he was so funny. I think his comic timing is really legitimately good. I think he was so much better than what's his face in the third one.
Yeah.
He should not be on film. Yeah.
Keith Richards.
I liked Keith Richards in the third one. He played this I never thought him as meaning to be really funny, but as this kind of old decrepit.
He's very much not an actor. Whereas Paul McCartney, I think, has an actual screen presence. I thought he was fun.
But it just didn't belong in the film. Like, what the fuck
absolutely
was
not.
that?
But who cares? It's a bad movie. So if something
I'll be honest. I thought that entire scene was so.
He's getting dragged
bad.
along, and the guards are like, "Oh yeah, we'll wait for you guys to finish your conversation
for your cameo."
His last line was good. That's about all I'll give it.
What
was his last line?
It felt so
It was a
Python-esque
one-liner.
though. I thought where it's like, I've been waiting for a beating all day. The service here is terrible. It's just a fun little thing.
Yeah, which would have been great in a Python film, not in this film.
No, but anything interesting in this movie is good. Like, that's a plus, you know?
Yeah, I guess. God, this film. There's so much to this film, and I keep thinking back to it and remembering things that I really hated about this film. I mean, that end scene where he's
Is there any? Let's just go. Is there anything else? Because we'll finish up on that end scene.
Okay. We should talk more about the weird tithe thing, where he wants people to pay him. There was this whole like theme along where Jack Sparrow wants people to pay him and pay tribute, and there's no conclusion to that whatsoever. Like, there's no character arc. There's no.
But they put it in the origin where people are like giving.
Yeah,
stuff.
I guess,
Like,
but that doesn't.
No, I'm not saying it pays off. I'm just saying that's a weird character trait to suddenly introduce in a fifth film.
I could probably talk about this movie for ages about how much I hate it.
So you guys didn't wait around to see the end credits scene.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Which was
What is it?
It was kind of cool. It was essentially, so basically it's Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley in bed after they've been getting to know each other again, and it's all kind of creepy and night and lightning, and suddenly you see this like peg leg come in and kind of goes up. It's Davy Jones, and it like cuts to him raising his claw in the air. Like, you don't see Bill Nye or anything, you don't see his face, but and then he wakes up and it's like, oh, it's a dream, it's a nightmare. But then you see like a bit of water on the ground still. It's like, ooh, Davy Jones is coming back, which is insane because all of the curses on the sea were broken and Davy Jones is dead, and it makes no sense. But at the same time, I'm like, I love Davy Jones, so this is better than anything else that could happen with this series. So,
Fuck, I wish we'd stayed for that.
It's a cool scene.
Sounds like the best thing in the movie.
Yeah, but I will forgive. Like, if they bring Davy Jones back, I'm like, that's better than anything else they're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't care if it doesn't make any sense.
But will it actually be good?
No, it won't.
No, and then they're going to ruin the character. They're going to ruin everything. I mean, they've already ruined everything, but they're going to ruin that character now. And fuck.
He'll still be great in the two movies, but
providing that they can get Bill Nye back.
Surely this won't actually crack another billion. I mean,
hopefully this is the last we hear of it.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if they can do this again.
Can we just quickly, to finish things up, can we talk about the final scene before the credits? The reunion of Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley.
Who does not get a line in this film.
What the hell, man? Why the hell is she hiding behind a hill for so long, waiting for Orlando Bloom to return?
Do you want to know what else was really bizarre about that scene? The shot where they're running towards each other is CGI. Like, it's not even good CGI. I was like,
so what?
Come on.
It's like the drone shot of them running.
Yeah, I remember just looking at it and being so weirded out by like, surely you could have just shot that.
They must have just said, we've got to tack this in. Just get Keira on a green screen set for a day. We'll get her running over a hill.
If that entire scene took a day, then fuck.
Whatever.
That
I thought, for me,
bizarre.
that was the icing on the cake for this whole film. It just encapsulated everything that this film was about, and it was like that full stop exclamation mark.
It was almost like an
punctuation.
afterthought.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like all this shit happens, they destroy it, and then they're sitting on a hill and they're like, oh yeah, the whole reason that he went on this adventure was to save his dad. I forgot that was a part of this film. And then Will Turner just like shows up from behind a cliff, and you're like, holy fuck, he's there now. And they're like doing the hug, and then holy fuck, she's here now. And like,
and he's like, the ship is off about 1 kilometer out to sea. He's on land. He's not wet. How did he get there? Is he gone on a little boat?
Probably a boat, yeah.
I don't fucking know.
How would you get from one to the other?
I don't know.
That's how you get from ship to shore, so that makes sense. But
I don't know, just a little reference to that.
But it undoes what was kind of a cool tragic ending to the original trilogy as well. Despite the curse happened, but he only had to do it for 20 years, so it's fine. Yeah.
Very, 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 very bizarre. It makes no sense.
All the curses on the sea are broken, so that's good. No more curses. No more. I guess all the magic in the world is dead, so we don't really
Is that
get
what
any
that
more
means?
movies, do we?
I don't understand it.
Well, it's because he says all the curses on the sea are broken, but Davy Jones shows up. Very strange.
Look, so looking back over describing this film, or just over the last
we didn't get
40
very
minutes,
far.
whatever it is, there's so much more to talk about, and I'll definitely will, when we stop recording, think about more things that I wanted to criticize on this film. But there's just the overwhelming thing is that there's no structure to any of it. There's no purpose, there's no rhyme, there's no reason, there's no characters, there's no plot, there's no real conflict. Nothing in this movie makes sense. This movie is absolutely everything I hate about studio films. Like it is such a blatant money grab.
Yeah, I think it's interesting coming from Disney because they have been very conscious about appeasing the fan. Well, appeasing the fans and trying their absolute best to really pump out good product. You know, for everything we said about Rogue One, I think they really did try to make a good film. This one, I feel like there's a lack of efforts, there's a lack of care. It's very much crank out another $1 billion kind of film.
The more blockbusters I watch, I really feel like it's a miracle that any of these things are good. I don't think anyone knows what they're doing. I think whenever someone makes a good movie, it's an accident. And I think that's borne out by those same people trying to make more movies. And it's very... But
then you get your Marvels and you get your, The Force Awakens. And I don't think that those are mistakes. I think that's people actually caring about what they're doing. And caring enough to produce something that is...
The thousands of people who work on these movies, the vast majority of them care so much about what they're doing. Like, this is their livelihood and their passion, their art.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't say care about what they're doing. It's not the right way to put it. But if you just look at the difference between this and Force Awakens, for example.
I just think when you have 1,000 people making a movie, most of the time it doesn't come together, and you get a 6 out of 10, which is like every fucking blockbuster that comes out. I think that's about it.
I wouldn't even put it at this at 6. 6 is doing it so much justice. I put this at 1 or 2. This is such a bad film.
I definitely don't find it that hateable.
I do.
I'd say like 4 to 5, 4 to 6.
It's interesting. You mentioned King Arthur being in the same vein. And I did want to touch about why I think it's different. And that very quite simply is because behind all the errors of King Arthur, and it does have a lot, there is competent filmmaking in it. There is a story. There are characters in it, which is something that this movie completely lacks. So when you strip away all the kind of surrounding errors of each film, at least you're left with a base that is solid in King Arthur. This one, there's nothing to this film.
No, I would say this was competent in a lot of ways, in a lot of great ways, and especially in a lot of ways that King Arthur wasn't. So I would say, they're very different failures, but they're both failures.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you guys give it on my new rating system that I've written for us, guys? Okay, so here.
Sorry, what? This is the first I'm hearing about this shit.
Yeah, he's just written it.
Yeah. All-time classic. Run to the cinema now. Must see in the cinema. Wait for Netflix. Avoid like the plague. A Pilo.
I'm not doing a rating system. I've made it very clear I'm not doing a rating system.
I'm giving this an avoid like the plague.
I'm gonna give it 2 stars.
Fuck you. I'm not doing a rating system.
I think if you've gotten this far into the podcast, you know exactly what we think of this film. So
if you're gonna watch it, find a comfy seat because it's long. That's it.
Yeah. Go to VMAX or some really nice padded seats.
Sneak into VMAX.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't actually pay money for this. God no.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that's it for our Pirates 5 review. That was a good time to a certain degree. Anyway.
No, it wasn't.
Always good to talk movies with you guys. Connor.
Bye.
Benny.
See you guys.